how to avoid plateaus is, so once you understand this idea of training to discomfort, not to pain, and using mobility and what the difference between flexibility and mobility is, and then using mobility at the end of your flexibility training, also for warm-ups. We prefer mobility training for warm-ups because that's what you want to do in a warm-up. You just want to take the joint through its full range of motion. The goal of a warm-up is not to try to create a new range of motion. It's just to access the range of motion that you've already got and prepare the joints and the muscles and the cardiovascular system and the central nervous system for the workout to come. Mobility is far superior for that than flexibility training. The last thing that you want to understand is daily training. It takes a lot of work to create a new habit, and it takes even more work to teach the body to do something that it's never been able to do before. So if you've never been a flexible person and you approach stretching and mobility, or flexibility and mobility training, is something that you do when you feel like it, you're not going to get a great result. Strength training is very different. Strength training, you can program 3 days a week of very intelligent strength training, and for a beginner, you can get really great results from that. Flexibility and mobility training, or flexibility training, is not the same. You really need to be doing daily work. I'll talk to you about 3 different options that you've got here. You could do flexibility training 3 days a week and mobility training every other day, because what you want to do, even on days that you aren't trying to increase your range of motion, you want to be accessing the range of motion that you've worked for to make sure that the body doesn't forget how to use it. So that's the easiest option. And the 18-minute stretching routine that we sell to our new members is designed specifically for that. It's a daily routine that you can do really, really easily. And if you're time poor and you want to just do it in the way that I do it in the follow-along sequence, it literally takes 18 minutes. Yep. That's what we've got it down to. Most of our members like to take their time with it and do it in 30 or 35 minutes, and that's your prerogative. If you've got the time to do that, you can do it. But that's exactly what it's designed for. The next option would be to do flexibility training between 4 and 6 days a week, and mobility training every other day, plus even potentially mobility training on the same days as well. And the last and most favorable option would be that you do flexibility and mobility training every day of the week. And how do you make this work? So obviously that's a lot of work for a lot of people are looking at that and thinking, oh my God, how can I do that? Well, the first step is just to create a daily habit. And you create a daily habit with something simple that's a no-brainer that you don't have to think about, like the 18-minute stretching routine. The second thing to do is to, once you've created the daily habit, is to figure out how you can get more work in. Now, for some people, that might mean splitting it up into 2 or 3 short sessions a day. So maybe the 18-minute stretching routine in the morning, and a little bit of flexibility routine, training after their workout, and then a tiny bit of mobility training before they go to bed. For others, it'll mean a one really long session. That's what they'll want to do. They'll want to do their warm-up, then their strength training, and then a really long flexibility session at the end of it. So it all just depends on you and what you want to do.
Yeah, I certainly find that the 2.5 hour session, which we call our elite program here, is favourable for me, because once I break away from my training, and we're about to go out and train now, 9:30 is our training time, I just want to get in flow with my work, so that works for me, you know. But I know that, like, you guys like to break it up and do your flexibility later on in the day or whatever else. So it's really, I guess it's individual for people. You got to fit it into how your body works best. And the way our energy system works, it usually works in 90-minute cycles anyway. So, you know, you might find that you can work really productively for 90 minutes throughout the day, and then you'd like to break away and do some physical training to get your body moving, recharge the batteries a bit, get back to your work, your job, your career. So it's all really, it comes down to what works for you, you know. We like to sort of break our program, our foundation movement system, into compartments. We've got the warm-up compartment, we've got the strength and flexibility training basics compartment, we've got our conditioning compartment, then we've got our skill compartment, our master classes for the calisthenics skills, and then we've got our advanced elite mobility training compartment that adds to that at the end, and you sort of choose what you can fit in. You know?
Yeah. So, and the last thing that I'll say is on this idea of daily habits and daily training, the more you can do, the better. So if you can do mobility training, so flexibility training, now that you understand the basics of what flexibility training is, that is something that takes some dedicated effort. You need to dedicate a workout to flexibility training. It's not really something that gets done in like 5 or 10 minutes or something. Mobility training, on the other hand, it can be done in 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You can sit down at the bus stop and do the squat routine for 5 minutes, and that's some mobility training right there. You can stand up from your desk and do a little bit of spinal waves and do a few shoulder circles and some scapular circles like this, and that's mobility training. And you can do that, and doing that multiple times throughout the day so that you break up that prolonged sitting, or even just prolonged being in the same position is really what it's about. That is going to have a dramatic effect over just doing one session a day or one session every other day or something like that.
I'm a huge fan of like squat challenge. Challenge yourself with squatting. Challenge yourself with hanging to open up the chest, and by challenge I mean do it as many times as you can throughout the day. As soon as you see an opportunity. If I ever have to wait for public transport, I'm squatting on the floor. I don't sit on the benches.